So, guys, I absolutely love when our work mirrors what's going on in society, and we have the opportunity to share that with other people, to let our voices resonate and really chime in on what's going on the political landscape. So, right now, as you all know, there is a very big election going on in New York. And the thing that's key about this election is they are using ranked choice voting. We call that RCV here. So, if you've heard of ranked choice voting, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? What do you know about that?
So ranked choice voting was basically ranking your choices in order to practice. So with the current two-party system, we currently just have two candidates, and usually I've heard my friends say like they usually have to pick the lesser of two evils. So ranked choice voting it gives us more options, and you can pick which candidate directly aligns with your.
That's great. You said the lesser of two evils because I have definitely felt like that as a voter, where I'm given these two people and these two parties where, frankly, my views sometimes somebody's saying something in one party that I align with, but I'm not part of that party. But my lifestyle says that I should be a part of that party. I think we're seeing a shift in society, right? So, with ranked choice voting, like you said, I get to say, we use interesting scenarios when we have focus groups. We say, would you like to have Chick-fil-A or soul food or another type of food for lunch when we're inviting people to eat? If we had just said, we're having soul food, do you want macaroni or collard greens? You'd be like, oh, well, I want both. Or for myself, I'm gluten free. I'd be like, gosh, I guess I got to have greens because I can't have the macaroni noodles. But if I had a choice, do I want Chick-fil-A? Do I want a salad? Do I want to bring my own lunch? Or do I want something else or leave out something completely? Then my vote counts. So that's how we're going to lead into the conversation about ranked choice voting and what's going on in New York. So I'd like to invite our team here at Equity and Education to chime in and talk about it a little bit. We'll start with Tiffany.
Thank you. Yeah, so I find this moment to be particularly interesting, just given coming off of the 2024 election, and we saw just a lot of voter dissatisfaction in the presidential election, especially those who are leaning more towards the left and looking at third party candidates as options. Um, but they don't have that option because a lot of times voting for a third party then kind of sabotages the voting system and allows for a candidate that you don't want to be in power. And that was a lot of tension that we saw. And then here in the state of Georgia, we have this 50 plus 1% majority rule where we tend to have runoffs a lot. So if a candidate doesn't get that 50% plus 1% of the vote, and there's more than two candidates running, which happens quite often, we end up having to go back within a month, usually in December, and having to vote in special elections, what not only costs the city money, but we have such a decrease in voter turnout in those runoffs because of voter fatigue and just knowledge. They may not even know there's a runoff election, that it really feels like a waste of money. And having RCV, or what we would consider instant runoff, would really solve for that problem fiscally, but it also allows for more voter satisfaction because maybe your first choice didn't get the pick, but your second choice did, and then people feel really satisfied with that instead of having this very polarizing um, result of either this or that, and those being so far apart. And so I think it'll be a really good um, it would be a really good system to get universally across our country to increase democracy.
Tell us a little bit about the significance with what's going on in New York and how that relates to Georgia and what we're looking for in Georgia.
Yeah, so right now in the mayoral race, we have I think about in New York City, there's around 6 candidates running for New York City mayor with.
Tonight.
Yes, which today is election day. So tonight, where Andrew Cuomo, the former governor, is the front runner for that, but we actually see Zoran. I apologize, his last name. Thank you. Montati is second, is coming in second there, and with ranked choice voting, this is actually a really unprecedented election, particularly in this season, because what we're going to see is in a city like New York that has such an influence on our country, and eyes are always on New York, and eyes are always on California. Very influential that if a leftist candidate, someone who they're considering a socialist, right, is able to knock out a Democratic primary PAC sponsored candidate through ranked choice, the people are actually going to see the power in that system. And I think they're going to advocate for that system even more. Of course, there are going to be people who are losing power because of that system who will always fight against it. But seeing them fight against that, whether that's Donald Trump or even Republican state senators here in Georgia, just shows how powerful it really is, and should be something that we invest in. So I'm really excited to see the results of this primary and see how voters feel and their satisfaction. But we've already seen more aligned candidates co-endorsing each other because you want your constituents to vote for the people who are aligned with you. So that means I'm no longer saying, "Don't vote for Narajana," and you're doing a smear campaign. She's my closest advocate now, so I'm saying, "Hey, put us 1 and 2 on the ballot," and vice versa.
Representative of what the people want.
Absolutely.
It's really representative of what the people want, because if I'm saying I like these 4 people, so if this one gets it, great. If they don't, then I know that my vote still counts because my second choice could get it. And then if that doesn't happen, okay, I liked those 2, but my third choice could get this. I'm not just not getting my vote. So it's very equitable. We love that word here, right?
Yeah.
So I want to hear from David. You want to chime in on your thoughts?
Yeah, I also think it will increase the value of every vote because as it stands now, a lot of times your vote really doesn't count if especially if it's going to a runoff anyway. And so now everybody's vote, I know Tiffany mentioned voter satisfaction. I feel like voters will actually have one of their choices actually considered. And then I'm an environmentalist for on the environmental side. The runoff, it just drives me crazy. We send out hundreds of thousands of plastic coated pieces of paper mailers on these runoffs, and it just adds so many resources, so much money, so many more pieces of plastic into our communities on the runoff. So just as someone that's worked all these runoff races in Georgia the last 5 years, it's just driving me crazy how much we actually waste on these
The
runoffs.
ranked choice is what we like to call, you said it before, instant runoff. It's instant runoff. It means we're getting our results right now, and it's very expensive in Georgia for a runoff. As you said, you're
Super expensive on all resources, not just money, just resources, our
yeah.
time, our energy, polling places. And then it decreases voter turnout in future elections because they're like, well,
They don't
I
trust
just voted. Yeah, they don't trust it.
JT.
You voted in November, then we did a runoff in December, and then you go and you do a special election or primary again in March. Now we're doing another statewide primary, not primary, yeah, primary we just had for the commissioner in May, and now we're going to turn around in October. It'll be early voting, and we'll have to do it all over again. And there will likely be, because there's so much stuff on the ballot, there will likely be another runoff in December. So essentially, in the state of Georgia, city of Atlanta, you're voting every 3 months, not every year like most people are, and it's a lot.
It's like a part-time job at that point. But I think yeah, but what I really like about what I'm hearing about this voting system is that it allows more opportunity, like you said, the co-endorsing makes it where shared power is actually being seen. And I think it builds more of a collective energy where we're not going to be so cutthroat, right? And so I think that to me, as someone who, especially from California, like the opportunity to be able to have that type of system, makes me feel like my voting count really does matter, and it doesn't feel so like splitting. And so to me, always think interconnectivity is going to drive us forward.
Yeah.
And it's been doing that since history,
Mhm.
and we'll continue to do that. So let's definitely keep it moving on this front.
What would it take to get it in Georgia?
You wanna talk about it, Naraja? Yes.
So in the state of Georgia, we require runoffs by our state law, and so we would need a local option bill for Atlanta to be able to implement RCV. And so to do that, we have to go through the Georgia General Assembly and to get a bill passed. So with the local option bill, it'll allow municipalities to decide what kind of election system that they want. And then Atlanta has shown that they want to implement RCV. So I feel like there would be a lot of support in the city already. And then we can implement it in the city for city council and school board.
And yeah, to your point, Narajan, I also think in Georgia, it's so unique here because of the runoff. But Republicans, once educated, I think Democrats and Republicans will both want this because there are so many voters that may not have wanted Trump, but had to vote for Trump because they're Republican, and they could have had, a candidate that more reflected their views, and same on the Democratic side. So I think it'll be talking with all parties.
Very notably in Georgia, military members already vote through ranked choice voting, and they've been doing that for years. So if our military members can do ranked choice voting, why can't the rest?
Oh, that's the slogan.
That's it. And a lot of times when you're looking at even school elections or, you're voting for homecoming court, most of the time that's ranked choice voting. You're just ranking the people who are on the list from priority. If, the people who get the least amount of votes are cut off that ballot and everybody else then moves up and those votes are counted. So we're talking about systems that actually already exist in our society. They just don't exist in our traditional electoral space. And so educating the community becomes a lot easier because they're already using them. And I think the same is true for even when we're looking at like conference football rankings and when coaches are ranking from high school all up to professional, when they're doing MVP, they're ranking. They're not just putting one name out there. They're usually given 3 slots and then those top popularities. So again, we use it for all these other systems that we care about, but the most important system, we're a winner takes all model, which I think just causes unnecessary division in our country because there's actually a lot more alignment between people than they want to realize. But there's somebody who benefits from that system. And so once you know who's benefiting from that and what their motives are, you can then see, okay, why is it important for us to dismantle that? But not only dismantle it, but bring something in that people can actually buy into, that they can see as effective. And so that's why, again, that this mayor election is an opportunity for people to see a vision in action and then be able to decide, is that something I want to buy into or not?
The two-party system seems so antiquated because life is just so much more nuanced, so much more complicated than it was 100 years ago. And so it just seems antiquated. Like
Who was able to
we, right.
And who was able to vote then?
Exactly.
Wow. So I love how you brought that home. It is antiquated. We're in a different society than we were 100 years ago. And who was able to vote then? I also heard if it's good enough for football and it's good enough for the military and it's good enough for California and New York, come on, Atlanta. Atlanta influences everything. Let's get ranked choice voting here. Thanks for logging on to our chat here about ranked choice voting, and chime in. Tell us your thoughts on ranked choice voting. And of course, pay attention to what's going on in our nation, what's going on in this election that's happening in New York, because it is going to influence and set the stage, give a foundation to not only what it is that we do and what we're looking at it for ranked choice voting, but how we show up in society and what the future looks like for all of us. Hopefully it looks equitable. And hey guys, remember, it is not too early to get in line for this election. We have a very important election coming up in Atlanta in November. And you may be thinking, gosh, it's just June right now. It's just July right now. But the time is now. This is what we call a down ballot election, which means there are several different offices that we are voting for, including your local school board. The school board has a lot of power. They're managing a lot of money, and they set the tone for your everyday life. So remember, get out there and vote. Educate yourself on what's out there, and remember to vote down that ballot. We'll be back to tell you more. We'll talk about a lot of this over and over, but get ready right now. November's coming up soon, and November is the jump off for the rest of your life.